Greetings. Today's 12/12/2018. It's been a while, but I'm coming to you with this short little video as an in-between video of the first one and my main message concerning the Passover pilgrimage, which I believe to be a message similar to Jonah to our generation. So in this video, I wanted to make a correction to my timeline, and this just goes to show you how easy humans can make errors. Because I was staring at this timeline for a week and a half, and I didn't notice that I had the wrong date right here for the Passover pilgrimage. I hope you guys noticed that, but I had 2018. But with this timeline, it's supposed to be 2019. And I don't like date setting, and in the past I've been very critical towards date setters. And though I have dates on here, this isn't meant to be date setting. It's meant to be like a mold. So if the Passover pilgrimage doesn't occur in 2019, you take the mold and put it over to Passover 2020. However, I do believe 2019 is the best fit, but time will tell. So the reason why I want to do this little video is to just give you guys a little explanation as to why I've concluded about 2033 being when the Messiah comes down to finish the 14-year appointed time of the end. Exactly 2,000 years after he ascended in 33 AD. The case for a 33 AD ascension. We'll start here in Isaiah chapter 19, verses 19 to 20. In that day shall there be an altar to the Almighty in the midst of the land of Egypt, and a pillar at the border thereof to the Almighty. And it shall be for a sign and for a witness. Okay. Altar in the Hebrew means a stone memorial. Okay. So the stone memorial in the land of Egypt is for a sign and for a witness. Now, the Great Pyramid is one of the most enduring things on planet Earth. So, it's definitely a sign. And it is a witness that testifies to something. It witnesses something. And I agree with the scholars who are studying the Great Pyramid, and they came up with these geometric measurements within the Great Pyramid, and they matched it up to dates, and the dates happen to fall on major years when something extremely significant happened. And one of the years that they concluded was 33 AD. And then in the Christ angle, it actually gets more specific, and it shows 2 BC, 29 AD, and 33 AD, which they say is the birth, baptism, and death, burial, resurrection, and ascension. And something interesting about this date is that it also matches what some scholars believe to be the Star of Bethlehem, with the multiple conjunctions that happen from 3 BC to 2 BC. And I personally agree with this. Let me show you right here. So in 3 BC, August and September, there were these major conjunctions that would have looked extremely bright in the sky. And this conjunction matches Luke 1:26, which is when the Virgin was visited by Gabriel in the 6th biblical month, which is when I went to the Torah calendar and plugged it in. It's right in here. And this is when she was told that she was chosen to birth the Messiah. And then the next conjunction, over here in November, another major conjunction, which would have been very significant. This would match Luke 1 when she was actually conceived around Hanukkah 3 BC. And then there are a couple major ones in between. And this here big one, the Romans thought it was honoring Caesar. And then finally with this here one, 2 BC, August 22nd, I believe this conjunction would match Luke 2:7, the birth of the Messiah around the Feast of Trumpets 2 BC. And then we have another big one on December 25th, 2 BC. And then the eclipses, which is more than likely the eclipse associated with Herod's death. So I definitely believe that these conjunctions, they match what the Magi was following and seeking and understood. And it also matches the witness of the Great Pyramid. Then in Luke chapter 3 verse 1, we have the 15th year of Tiberius for when John was baptizing. Now in one of the things history seems to get right is when kings ruled. And Tiberius wasn't just a king, but he was a emperor. So more than likely this is pretty accurate, and history has it from September 29 AD to September 30 AD is his 15th year. So that would put the baptism of the Messiah around September 30 AD. And then John has 4 Passovers. First Passover, 330 AD. Second Passover, 331. Third Passover, 332. And then the final Passover that the Messiah has with his disciples as 333 AD. And then a couple other scholars did some calculations from the 7th year of Artaxerxes, and they also concluded 33 AD. Now, the significance of 1948. There's multiple scriptures in Ezekiel that speak about the Israelites being brought back from among the nations plural, into one nation. In Isaiah 66, a nation brought forth in one day. And I believe that 1948 begins the 70-year count to the start of the seals, and the 10-year count from seals to the flying away of the 144,000. Because the 144,000 is basically representing Israel in the final 14-year appointed time. And the state of Israel as being the sign and the start of the 70-year count. Another interesting thing that I wanted to point out concerning the timeline here, I just found the other day, is that right here, the 7th seal. So the 7th seal, which I have as August 12th, 2026, and there just happens to be a solar eclipse on that day, which this would be the day of redemption, and the sealing of the 144,000, when all the believers, dead and alive, are gathered together in New Jerusalem, and the 144,000 are sealed and then sent back for the after the first couple trumpets. When I was studying, I came across, where are we at here? The scripture, it never sat well with me. And from my experience, when a scripture doesn't sit well with you, or it just doesn't make sense, more than likely the Messiah is telling you, your spirit, that the English translation is poor. And that's exactly what happened in this scripture right here when I researched it. Revelation 8, verse 1, and when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. So that was like half an hour. I tried all different kinds of calculations to break it down, and none of it ever fit. None of it ever made sense. I should have just started with this and looked it up in the Greek. So the Greek word there for an hour doesn't have to be an hour, and I definitely don't think in this case it is an hour. It just means a space of time, a divinely space of time, the particular time for anything, an appointed time. Okay? So, now that we know that, let's read it, what it should say. And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half the appointed time, at the half marker of an appointed time, of a predetermined time, of a divinely set time period. Now, if we go back to the timeline here, and we look, the seventh seal, where's it at? About the halfway marker of the 14-year appointed time. Let's see, we're Passover pilgrims right here. Spring 2019 to right here. Spring into summer 2033. 14 years. And the seventh seal is at about the halfway marker of the predetermined time. Tell me that's not awesome. Oh boy, my spirit was jumping within me when I finally figured that out. So, now that we know that, then when we read about the wise virgins / Church of Philadelphia, it should read like this. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the appointed time, from the predetermined time of temptation or of testing. And when I looked up temptation and testing, it's actually righteous retribution, because this trial is for the adulterous generation. It's not meant to be for us. We're supposed to be removed from it right here, but many of us won't be. A vast majority of us won't be. But that's the next message on how to escape it. So I just wanted to share that with you. I thought that was very significant, especially with the timeline here. Seventh seal being the halfway marker, and that fits perfect with this timeline of the 7-year trial, which is the seals, the judgment, the trial. Judgment begins in the house of the Almighty, 7-year trial, and then the 7 years of wrath, 3.5 years of the wrath of the Almighty, which is in response to the 5th seal, and then 3.5 years of the wrath, 3.5 years of the wrath of the Lamb, trumpets, which is in response to the 5th seal, and then 3.5 years of the wrath of the Almighty, which is in response to the mark. So 7 years of wrath, 7 years of trial, and at about the halfway marker, boom, 7th seal. Okay, and I also would like to encourage you all to come back and check out my next video concerning the Passover pilgrimage. It's my main message. I believe it's what I've been born to do, to share it with you all, because it's time sensitive, it's extremely urgent, and I don't see the message is almost non-existent out there, and I've been looking. There have been some over the years that have been saying it, but not many. And I'm gonna reiterate it, and it's like the end time Jonah message for this generation. All right, and I'm gonna try to get that out before January 7th, because January 7th to the last day of Passover would be 80 days, and that's the long, as far as my research, that's the longest time period of cleansing, which is when after the birth of a female, of a daughter, it's 80 days until a woman can enter the temple. And the Passover pilgrimage is the Wise Virgin's Church of Philadelphia fulfilling the pilgrimage to the temple to be presented before the Almighty. So I hope you come back and check it out. And until then, I wish you all well and enjoy the holidays and make the best of it. Thank you.